Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are around the world. Well, an admission. I had thought I'd stumbled across the correct version for drawing a pergola where you've got the sides flush in the plane on the four sides. Well, I've got the best way to think of it is probably saying it's a workaround. It may well not be the correct version or method to generate the geodesic dome structure. Thinking that I had created the quadrant and the half sphere, I thought, well, all you had to do is rotate it, and hey presto, you'd wind up with your full sphere, and you just fill in the blank areas. Well, no, it's quite wrong, and it may well be that to achieve the structure that creates those gazebo, carport, pergola type structures cannot create a sphere from that structure or the method, because when I did the rotation I had to delete quite a number of the faces and then infill them as I've show here, just in the ordinary coloured faces or colours, the bits that I had to delete and then join back in together. And once you do that and you try and align them with anything the sides, all of a sudden you've got the legs angling back in and the apex or the point here angling back in also, which is quite often the case when we draw it conventionally going to occur, and why it was proven to be such a problem child in trying to get a method to generate the version that I wanted. And I also said that yes, you could create a sphere like this in the conventional approach, and then just fudge it a little bit by adapting the points of intersection where the faces can be generated. So, thinking that we may be able to, once we created a full sphere, find a better way of generating the alignments, I've come up with a blank. I have an inkling or a suspicion that the method that I'm using to generate the shapes, the domes, is either totally wrong or that it's specific to creating those four-sided pergola, gazebo, carport type structures. It's specific to it. So the workaround, I think, may have to be seeing what we're doing here to create these different domes. I think we may have to persevere in the meantime and allow that any shortcomings just to put up with them. But as you can see, the angle, well, it was just an aside actually, but the angle between this surface and this surface is quite pronounced, so the rotational moment there would be quite severe, making these lower angled domes much better. That begs the question, there are some that have got quite steep lines in the opening area, and it makes me wonder how they were created, what method they were created in. Also, which I'll show you a photo in a minute, why I'm saying this seems to be valid, but I'm uncomfortable with saying it's a good way of doing it. This strut here is quite a bit shorter than this strut here, and I'd prefer them to be a little bit more balanced in dimensions. But when you try and do anything to make this bigger or this smaller, it affects a lot of the shapes in this hexagon area, and they either become very, very thin and narrow here, which seems strange because I'm wanting to make this bigger, or it just distorts it, which is puzzling. That's why I say this is a journey, one which I really don't know where I'm at now with it, because I thought I'd come across a really good workaround. Well, it is a good workaround, but it's inelegant. And try as I would, I tried to use different divisions of the circumference for this on this 45. I tried the different divisions on the sides, going up and down the numbers, like a 3 section or a 5 section here, and trying to get the points where we can make use of to create the geometry, the structure. But that's not the case, it would seem. So I'll just bring in a photo, in fact 2 photos, which this one shows probably where I'm at with the drawings at the moment, where we've got this strut length quite a bit shorter than this strut length, and the hexagon is quite squished in this dimension compared to this dimension, which is a function of how it's drawn. It can't be anything but. And I was trying to get this be a bit more normalized towards this size here, but if you do that, it starts pushing these points out and making it not flush and plain as I would like it. So as you massage it, you gain in one area and not in another. This is the version of the dome which I'd like to get to, and seems to be quite similar to the lower legged version in the drawings I'm doing. So this is why I'm quite happy to at least get to approach this version compared to this one. This has got a longer leg and shows up in another photo, which I might just bring in briefly, which you can see here. The legs are quite a bit longer, more in proportion as far as from that point to this point, from this point down, so it's more in proportion, very similar to what we have in some of our drawings. But again, you can see the distance here compared to here is quite a bit shorter. So this seems to be still not achieved yet, because the proportion of this strut compared to the top one, while I do think it is shorter, it's more pleasing to the eye. So I'm thinking that I'm not happy with where we're at the moment. I think that we could make it work, but it could be problematic. Just move these off to one side, go out of the parallel projection. So this version here, I think, is the closest we can get to the, this version here is a bit smaller, where the length of that strut compared to that seems to be as close as we're going to get to this version here. It's difficult because this is a photo with camera induced perspective, and this is a software drawing program induced perspective, so they're not going to be the same. It may well look that the height here in the, I'm going to call it the roof, is greater in proportion to the leg compared to here, but I can't see that being too far away. And again, even though this may well be a method to achieve this, which is more of a fudge than fact or correctness, it may be what we have to live with until such time as I fall across the better method, or someone contacts me, gives me a bit of a tap on the shoulder and say, hey Dave, you should be doing it this way, and end all your problems. So until then, I'm going to probably end the video series until such time as more information that's relevant or pertinent crops up. I will be doing more videos on the construction of the hubs. I've got an idea for that, and the formation of the framework itself based off of this same structure. They'll be identical in this, it'll be this dimension, one of these two, there or thereabouts, and so we'll go from there. Righty-ho, that was a bit of a insight to where I'm at, or not, and we will progress in some degree as more information comes to hand. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.